Flexibility and mobility. The really startling truth about aging. When I began my bodybuilding journey back in 2014, all I ever focused on was lifting more weight. I wasn't too worried about form, and I definitely wasn't too worried about flexibility and mobility. The goal was just to make sure that my muscles were growing in size and that I looked good in a shirt. Little did I know that I was setting myself up for trouble down the road. I didn't know it at the time, but it turns out that flexibility is at the core of our day-to-day activities. Bodybuilding the way that I was doing it was taking away my flexibility. It was actually creating a series of problems that went far beyond the muscles that I mistreated. In coming around to more functional activities later on in life, like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or occasional sprinting as an example, I realized that I was limited in where I could apply the strength that I had actually built in the gym. On top of that, I had small lingering pains in different places around my body. One doesn't have to go to the gym to set themselves up for these issues. Sitting at a desk chair for extended periods of time also contributes to similar problems. In general, we live a lazy and dormant lifestyle which compounds our muscular problems each day. It might be hard to believe, but a loss of strength is a major disease of aging. It starts with a tightening of the muscles, which reduces the range of motion, and ends with an accelerated wasting of muscle. This all compounds and makes minor falls a serious threat at older ages. This new information has changed my perspective. I've since canceled my gym membership and decided to take a break from traditional weightlifting. I now focus on flexibility and mobility, which I'll detail below. What's the difference between flexibility and mobility? The physiotherapist/chiropractor I've been visiting put it this way. Flexibility is the places where your body can go with help. Mobility is your ability to take your body to those places yourself. So if I could grab your leg and move it to various different places, that would be considered your flexibility. If you could, through your own strength, move it to those same places, we would call that mobility. So in a way, you can think of flexibility as being at the core of mobility. However, what I've been taught is that mobility actually helps to improve flexibility. It's not what I would have thought, but we can understand why that's true. Part of what makes us flexible is the fact that our other muscles can help support the movement. From that perspective, it becomes important to work on both. Mobility also seems to add the detail of proper form to the equation. Just like you can teach good habits, you can also teach bad ones too. When it comes to building strength, form is important because it builds the tracks along which your muscles will move. If the tracks move the muscle in the wrong path, it spells trouble for the future of that muscle and other muscles along the chain. At that point, the whole movement could have to be retrained with a lower resistance. Muscle virus. I heard of the idea of a muscle virus through someone called Elliot Hulse back in the day. The idea was that if you had an issue with one muscle or nerve, it would likely be the cause of a series of other issues along the muscular chain. The body tries to compensate for injuries, which makes it seem like the pain is spread like a virus. Not only is mobility and flexibility important to make sure that these muscle viruses are healed, they're also important for prevention. Unfortunately, most of us neglect the small pains, let alone question whether it was caused by a muscle virus up or down the chain. This ends up snowballing into a much bigger problem. For example, I was having pain on the inside of my left knee recently. It wasn't crippling, but it was a nagging injury that was stopping me from bending my leg a certain way. After seeing my chiropractor/physiotherapist, it was revealed that my issue stemmed from inflexibility in my ankle. The inflexibility in my ankle took away its ability to bear weight, which put the undue pressure on muscles and ligaments up the chain. This is a prime example of a muscle virus. It turns out that fixing the ankle and improving the flexibility of muscles in my leg took away the knee problems. Flexibility, mobility, and aging. It starts by neglecting flexibility and mobility, developing pains that we ignore as a result, and a complete avoidance of that muscle, which leads to stiffness and muscle wasting. Luckily, we can be proactive. Building mobility and flexibility also doesn't require fancy equipment. It's about making the decision to be proactive and working on it consistently. The last thing we should want is to fit into the traditional mold of what it means to get old. If we can stave off some of the expected hardships, why don't we? However, it takes making the conscious effort to change our lifestyle. It also requires changing the way that we do things. For example, I have adopted the use of a standing desk and a wobble stool when I work. These are seemingly small adjustments, but when you factor in how many days in a year we work, it's huge. Maybe that's the way that we have to look at these lifestyle changes. Baby steps. We're not going to be perfect out the gate, nor should we try to be. We should settle for the baby steps that move us 1% closer to our overall goal. Conclusion. It actually feels quite embarrassing to be in my mid-20s, feeling like I'm physically a lot older. My cases of knee pain and shoulder pain were mild, but I feel like these years should be my physical prime. If I settle for these lingering pains, I can't imagine where I'll end up in 20 or 30 years. Situations like this drive me towards improvement. Questions like, I wonder how much more capable I could be if I put in a targeted effort to improve. So the overall question is, what can we all do to improve the narrative and the standard around flexibility and mobility? The reason I find myself in this inflexible situation is because I never knew the importance. And judging by how prevalent flexibility and mobility issues are at an old age, I assume it's an issue many other people also don't know about. My hope isn't that this information I shared will be memorized by those who read it. My hope is that the readers will start asking different questions. If you ask the right questions with the intention to learn, you will find the answer and discover new potential. If you enjoyed this article and would like to see the links within it, you can go to www.banafit.com. That's www.banafit.com. Thanks for listening.